I will be debating in opposition to the resolution the United States federal government should ban all testing that requires the use of animals. Before I speak any further on this topic, I would like to point out that the phrasing I have just used is the exact phrasing of the debate resolution. At about 53 seconds into my opponent's speech, he says, quote, "The United States federal government will ban all non-consensual testing on living things," close quotes. It is of the utmost importance that my opponent has changed the phrasing to non-consensual testing on living things. He bases all of his arguments around the central tenet that he establishes early in his speech. In using this phrasing, he is implying that consensual testing should not be banned. The only animal I can think of that can undoubtedly reason and consent is the Homo sapien, human. Even if my opponent's proposed plan were to be put in place, humans, being animals, would be allowed to be tested on. It is obvious my opponent has already conceded that the federal government should not ban all testing that requires the use of animals because of his explicit admission to the allowance of human testing. Despite his concession of the debate in less than 1 minute, I will continue. The issue I have with the basis of my opponent's speech, and you as the judge should have as well, is that throughout his speech, it is implied we are to morally equate a human life to the life of any other animal. He uses the phrase, quote, "a greater respect for human life," close quotes. How can a human, one with supreme intelligence, a conscious being, come to terms with equilaterally treating all life? My opponent would like you to believe that a fruit fly that lives for 24 hours or less should be considered equally with that of a human baby, one with the capacity to learn, to grow, to think, to become aware. Where is the line drawn? Plants are living. Can we not test on plants? What about a virus? Many would argue that a virus is alive. Should we test a virus? Should we treat a virus as it is a human? My point is clear. The life of a human is intrinsically sacred in value and should be held to the highest esteem. This is not something I feel I need to convince you of further, as the status quo in place today exhibits it well. There is animal testing today for the benefit and furthering of human life. To ban all testing requiring the use of animals is to devalue that human life. If we value human life as anything less than ultimate, society itself is poised to collapse under anarchy as individuals disregard life in all of their actions. My opponent's futile attempts to impact out the continuation of animal testing leading to an oppression of peoples through a series of illogical steps simply does not make sense. The status quo of a ban, as it is today, the status quo of no ban, as it is today, is what best fits the needs of the continuation and furthering of science, and the oppression of people has nothing to do with it. My opponent attempts to sway you, the judge, into another illogical argument when he says, quote, "another advantage is better scientific research," close quotes. Firstly, I'd like to harp on the status quo a little further. The scientific community as a whole functions and is committed to advancing its field as quickly and efficiently as possible. Wouldn't it be logical, then, that they would use the most advanced research techniques at their disposal in order to further science? By limiting the scientific community's desired research techniques in any facet, the federal government would inherently limit science, thus making research worse, not better, as my opponent has said. My opponent also uses the phrase, quote, "criteria for judging should be net benefits," close quotes. I fully agree with this statement, and I will use my opponent's exact criteria to prove why I've won this debate round. The net benefits of allowing the status quo to remain far outweigh any possible benefits a ban could provide. My opponent says that some businesses use animal testing to turn a profit. He tries to connect a loss of profit to a positive in a matter I simply do not understand. My opponent admits that profit loss would occur, most likely on an enormous scale. A ban would mean a loss of profit for private companies, which in turn would be tens of thousands of jobs lost in this sector. Unemployment would rise, GDP would fall, the economy as a whole would suffer. Aside from this and the scientific hindrance, just think of the human ramifications a ban would entail. If a ban were to be placed in effect, progress would essentially be stopped towards the treatment and cure of hundreds of diseases and conditions. Think of the millions upon millions of people that would continue to struggle and suffer and die worldwide as we fail to continue science and fail to find cures for these diseases. I don't recognize the benefit under my opponent's plan. Individual human beings, as you may know, would continue to live in agony and in fear of death in spite of treatments that could have been made available had we allowed for animal testing to continue. Let us not forget what it means to be human, the privilege of human life, and our ability to extend and protect this morality that distinguishes us from beasts. Thank you very much.